All right, everybody, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. I should probably check my settings here because occasionally it uses the wrong setting for the Yeti microphone over here. And I'm not sure exactly because it has no reason. I don't know. It's Greek to me. It's like a microphone is a microphone. I don't fucking understand it. Let's see. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Okay. I see people are piling into chat. Yes, people generally don't get notified of my content. In the rare occasions that they do, I get like 15,000 extra views on YouTube. But that is a rarity these days, unfortunately. We'll be talking about all sorts of cool shit today. Bill Gates is weighing in on AI, actually, and that's always a hot button issue. Bill Gates' dystopian opinions. This one is a little bit on the dystopian side, I will admit. When we talk about Ben Shapiro, he went off on Candace Owens actually last night and practically went crazy, actually. I don't know whether he was drunk or just, I don't even know exactly how to make this out. A link in the description, along with a bunch of other links. I'm not 100% sure exactly what his problem was, because Candace Owens doesn't appear to have said anything that was particularly pernicious, and they both work, by the way, at the Daily Wire. Of course, Candace Owens is effectively his employee, I think. I think he's technically her boss, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen with that one. SCOTUS now has an ethics code. We'll analyze that. Gaza is collapsing, its medical system, unfortunately, so there will be more people dead in Palestine in short order. By the way, the cat is McLovin' it. She pretty much spends all available time, whenever possible, on my lap or next to me. Like last night, the cat just decided to snuggle up next to me and does the purry thing and the furry thing, and occasionally biffs me in the face with her tail. Many such cases. We've got new strikes in Syria by the U.S. military, something that I think is slightly alarming and risks a wider conflict within the region. And then, by the way, the Democrats are really pissed at Joe Manchin right now. They're trying to persuade him not to do a third-party run, like as a no-labeler or an independent candidacy. He's clearly got that ambition, though, quite clearly. He's alluded to it a number of times, so we'll be talking about if Manchin enters the race, sort of what that means, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, to Patrick D, yeah, Chris Christie, I talked about him this morning, how he looked fucking ridiculous when he went over to visit that the Gaza zone that Israel has taken over. Oh my God. I didn't know that they made body armor in his particular size, and even then it didn't cover everything. I noted that basically, like, there were ripples of fat hanging out of the side of his armor, and so it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't matter because he's still got the pinch and inch region. He's still got the Shouderham region and the big rippling like arm rolls and stuff like that. So I'm not sure exactly what it was trying to accomplish. We'll be talking about many things today, and she's almost falling asleep, actually. Yeah, I'm playing with her feet. She likes that. Most cats hate it when you touch their feet. Farah thinks it's great. Anyway, we'll start right off with the news. Bill Gates says AI is pretty dumb now, but predicts everyone will have robot agents within 5 years. Bill Gates argued AI will help users with virtually any activity and area of life. Now, first and foremost, unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, I actually agree with Gates on part of this. It is inevitable that AI will be considerably cleaned up and more workable, better in general, in the next 5 years. It will be possible to book a vacation using an AI assistant. It will be possible to work out routines, et cetera, et cetera. My problem is people are going to become more and more reliant upon these systems. Like right now, when I was a kid, and I know I'm not even being nostalgic, I'm just pointing out a reality here. When I was a kid, you navigated by buying a map, and you used the map in order to navigate from point A to point B, and there are road signs and stuff like that. Now people either have a GPS system in their car, or they literally have it on their phone and they use that, a voice activated assistant of one sort or another, to get from point A to point B. They don't go off without a hitch. They have problems. I know this because I've driven in the Netherlands. It's actually rather funny. Here in the Netherlands, there's an enormous amount of construction work at any given time going on. And last week, I drove out. I can't remember exactly where we were going, just taking one of our trips. And the navigational assistant was trying to guide me down a certain road, but the road was closed. So then you have to go past it, and then it has to reroute over and over again because there's so much fucking construction. You could misuse such an application. If it were hacked, you could direct people to the dark alley where they're going to be mugged or raped or something, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking forward to a future where people are effectively being trolled using AI systems. Not that it's not technically happening now with AI-generated imagery, et cetera, et cetera. In my opinion, it's a bad idea for us to adopt it for that kind of day-to-day use, and AI should really be used for bigger and better applications. The development of medicines, which I'm sure Bill Gates would agree with me on for different reasons. Intel, etc. But that won't happen. Unfortunately, Gates is fundamentally correct. Within the next 5 to 10 years, people will generally be using AI systems. They will not, however, be like he's alluding to robots. So you would think of like a Protectron that wanders around your home and gives you guidance on what you should do. How do I fix the fucking washing machine? Well, sir, it is not plugged in. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that your phone will have AI on it, which is why I fucking hate smartphones. I already hate the fact that people walk around with them. And it's like 20 years ago, people, they would greet each other on the street and stuff. Now everyone has their wireless earbuds plugged in and their phone in their pocket, and they're listening to music or something like that. By the way, ruining their hearing in the process. I choose not to do such things. It's become a problem. People are so hyper-reliant upon these technological systems that they're losing the capability of doing many things on their own. Like, there are apps on the phone for identifying plants. Well, have you ever thought about reading books on how to identify plants and memorizing them? No, of course not. It's making humans dumber. And I don't say this as like a Luddite, although with phones I am. I say this as a pragmatist. The human race is slowly losing its ability to survive because we've been so reliant on external sources of knowledge and guidance. And I don't think that that's a good idea. In Gates' mind, of course, it's a good method to make money and control people. Of course, those AI systems will be completely subjugate to the whims of a handful of companies that actually are allowed to make them because of government regulation, which will encroach further, by the way, over the future. It's a way to influence public opinion. It's the greatest propaganda tool that's ever been invented. It's a better propaganda tool than the internet itself. And the internet is, by the way, rife with fucking propaganda. Look at any TDS suffering article if you want an example of that. Internet's a great mode of communication. So is television. So is radio, etc. They can all be affected by AI. AI becomes effectively the technological overlord over all of these things and will effectively, for many people, it will dictate their day-to-day existence. Oh, it'll make things more efficient. Absolutely. And for a small fee, the corporation will allow you that capacity. But it will also tell you how you should vote and what brand of toothpaste that you should use. You see where I'm going, et cetera, on down the line. I will not be using AI. I'm not against its usage. I think that it can be a very positive thing for mankind. I'm just a pragmatist and a realist, and I understand that that's probably not how it's going to be used. Long and short of it. 87 Sparker, what's your opinion on the digital quality plan? I think you mean the digital equity plan. I will be covering that tomorrow. Yes, that is major news, although when the FCC commissioner is rejecting an expansion of the FCC's authority, even though he was imposed by Trump initially, he was put back in the position by Biden. Biden didn't decide to shit-can him. Yeah, I'd say that probably it's DOA. The Agal faces, Merry Christmas sticks, still waiting for your Fumo plush. That will never happen. Virgil Walker, Sticks, I recently came back from the Philippines. I want to see that someday. Foods and services were really good and everyone was very polite. Highly recommend a visit. Manila airport was massively crowded though. I desperately want to see the Philippines, specifically for the food, because it looks amazing. Same with Vietnam, same with Thailand. The food, the climate, I mean, it's early winter here and it gets dark at in an hour, it'll be dusk basically. So I'm definitely thinking of that. Although me and Liz are intending to visit Tuscany, actually. Wow, open source phones and the problem can be mitigated. I don't think anything's going to mitigate the kind of monopolism that's going to be engaged in with AI systems. And they will get better. Bill Gates is not wrong when he predicts that. Simple Logic 90. Am I the only one who has noticed Jackson Hinkle has dropped his Russia-Ukraine war grift? Dude simps so hard for authoritarians. He's having his 15 minutes of fame after several years of attempting unsuccessfully to promulgate a self-refuting system. And so he's the new Vouch, effectively. He's the new bread tube. Congrats to him. I mean, he'll make plenty of capitalistic cash on his grift. I don't know. Doing the Lord's work, Jackson. Sigil Stone 17. Bring on as much AI as possible. AI is going apeshit. Seems to be a prerequisite to getting cybernetic arms and dongs and hacking modules in our heads and cool shit like that. In real life, Raish, Bartmoss, when? Yeah, I mean, again, I have no problem with cybernetics, like Neuralink and stuff like that, or with AI. Just like I don't have any problem with the internet, although there are ways in which it has fundamentally changed society that are for the negative. In many ways, it was a positive. But when these things were developed, the internet especially, it was hyper unregulated at first. It was effectively a libertarian free market of ideas for a very long time. That's why it was useful. That's why it was a net positive. With AI, they're stepping in, the government, immediately because they know it's going to be the next big thing, and they're going to ruin it right off the bat, try to force people to use it and subjugate them. And eventually it'll be digital currency only through a phone that's automatically controlled by AI or something like that. And you won't really have an option unless you're in the middle of nowhere or a third world country to opt out of that bullshit. And so I guess I'm going to have to move to, the Ozarks or something at that point. Shlomo Goldenstein. Christie should be referred to as Hiroshima. Yes, the Fat Man, of course, reference. I actually thought about that after I made my Chris Christie video. I joked about them dropping him on Gaza and it causing a huge crater. I'm like, damn, I should have made a Fat Man reference. Fuck. I realized that afterwards that I had missed a golden opportunity, but you have taken it, my friend. And the next news story, Autumn Groiper posting here. Ben Shapiro slams colleague, real Candace Owens, for her absolutely disgraceful behavior in front of a visibly shocked audience. And by visibly shocked, that's an understatement. You should definitely watch the goddamn video clip. The reaction of the people in the crowd is better than anything that Ben Shapiro is saying here. It's fucking hilarious. They're like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? Shapiro goes on, saying her faux sophistication on this issue is ridiculous. Tensions rising at Daily Wire. Again, I believe that Ben Shapiro is technically her employer, I think. So, I mean, if there's tension, if Owens doesn't resign, I guess he can shit can her or something. But he goes off the rails. He got really mad at her, and I'm not exactly sure why, because people are talking, I think, if you go down through the comments, let's see. Owens compares the media's recent outcry over anti-Semitism to their complete silence on anti-white racism. And then says something that I'm not sure that I'm allowed to say on YouTube, even though it's technically innocuous. I fail to see the problem with this question. I mean, she's right. And she's also not white. So I don't think that she's doing it just for racial purposes, like an id poll leftoid or something. Look, I have my disagreements with Candace Owens, too, and with Ben Shapiro. I also have areas of overlap where I appreciate the commentary that they make. To call out your fellow Daily Wire reporter, though, in a very public setting, effectively face-to-face, in this manner, and to use the language that he did is generally considered inappropriate. I know why he's doing it, because, of course, Ben Shapiro, believe it or not, he happens to be Jewish. I think that he doesn't like the fact that Candace Owens, in his mind, I think genuinely, is making little of what's going on between Israel and Palestine. But that's not the reality. Ben Shapiro just has, sensitivity on that issue. What she's saying is the legacy media are hypocrites. Why? How is she wrong? I'm scratching my head as to. Ben Shapiro calls out the legacy media too on a regular basis. Again, please explain how she's being ridiculous. What's ridiculous about that statement? And again, the second part, unfortunately, on YouTube, I can't actually iterate. Here's one example of what Candace Owens has been saying in recent weeks. Owens endorses Nikki Haley for president of Israel amid collapsing support for the Jewish state. I think that Israel could do worse. She is definitely absolutely gung-ho for war. So, again, what's the problem here? Basically, she's saying don't promote a bunch of warmongering. That's what her comments have boiled down to. I know that Ben Shapiro is gung-ho for the war because he wants to see the Gaza Strip effectively obliterated. And has made it clear that that's effectively what he would like to see, and doesn't give a damn how many civilians die in Gaza. The world has a little bit of a different opinion, I think, from Ben Shapiro on this issue. I think that most people don't want little babies wrapped in tinfoil to die because it's not something that human beings, if they want to remain human, need to be doing. If we don't want to regress back to monkey, and not in the good way, like, hey, we're swinging around in trees, throwing bananas at each other. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But regressing to monkey in the sense of like chimp bands throwing rocks at each other and beating each other over the head with clubs and shrieking and blood is everywhere. Can we at least protect like little kids? Can we at least protect the defenseless? Okay, even if you want to kill the women, okay, but can we protect the babies at least? Like the little infants and stuff? I don't think that that's an anti-Semitic proposition. I notice when little kids in Israel get killed by Hamas members, which is egregious and terrible, it's a big deal. But then all of a sudden, 10 times more little kids in Gaza are being flattened and mutilated and dying in hospitals because there's no power or water or anything. And people like Ben Shapiro would rather ignore that. I find that to be barbaric. I think that Ben Shapiro on that particular issue is being a barbarian. I think Candace Owens is right, ultimately. In the end, when you're acting in that manner, it doesn't really matter. Who cares whose kid it is that you're killing? It's a little kid. Goes back to that bullshit, would you kill baby Hitler and stuff like that? Okay, Ben Shapiro might have a different answer than most of us on that. Wow, without internet, we wouldn't get people like you. Yeah, well, Biden is trying to ruin that as well, in coordination with also trying to ruin AI systems. The government's already trying to regulate that as well. Cole Ross. Christie would be better off being dropped on Nagasaki. They were bombing with Fat Man. Had to change spelling. Oh, I thought Little Boy was Nagasaki and Fat Man was Hiroshima. I don't know. Wow, I appreciate Ben. Not really a fan of him, though. Yeah, he has some good commentary, but then he hauls off. He's attacking one of his fellow employees at the Daily Wire and saying weird shit. Why? Because she suggested that the legacy media are hypocrites. He says that in every episode. Virgil Walker, do you have a preferred airline to fly with? I usually use Delta. Awoo Patrol, do you have any books on exorcism? I've been meaning to do the Roman Ritual, specifically the second of the 3 volumes that does contain the exorcism section. I don't believe in Catholic exorcism, but it's a fascinating topic. I'd like to release a copy of it. I just have to get a copy to release. Digitally, it's more difficult. I mean, the Ritual Romanum Volume 2, I've tried to find on the internet, like as a scan, like an out of copyright version. I haven't found one so far, so I'm gonna have to get a vintage probably off eBay or something. Exorcism is covered in a couple of the works that I've edited. Just let me think. Demonolatry by Sinistrari, which is in the demonology section, link in the description and pinned on YouTube, by the way, for your convenience, on my books blog. Go to the demonology section, that one. and my demonology collection, which I can't remember if I put in the demonology section or in the my works section. It's in one of those two. And everyone should get a copy. It was one of my favorite works to edit. I compiled a whole shit ton of stuff on demonology into one work. It's like, I think 400 pages or thereabouts, so it's full length, and it's definitely informative. What I wanted to do was get a cross-section of the concept of demonology from different perspectives. So I wanted the atheistic perspective, the Catholic perspective, the Protestant perspective, the pagan perspective, etc. I wanted rationalism and religion. I wanted spirituality and organized sectarianism. I wanted all of these things in one particular work because I never came across a work that had that sort of a broad heading of demonology. And so I created it myself. And it sold thousands of copies, actually. So people seem to enjoy it. So probably you will too. So in fact, let me drop a link in the description really quick, because now you got me excited about one of my work releases there. Yeah, is it? Let me check really quickly whether it's in the demonology section. No, I think I think I put it in my works, I believe. Just a second. Ridicule for all, debunking critical race theory. Yeah, a collection of demonology. Just let me grab this really quick. All right, I'm putting that in chat on both platforms. Yes, this is a work compiling a bunch of demonological materials. And how many pages was it? Let me fact check myself live. It's definitely full. Yeah, 424 pages of demonological lore from multiple sources. So you get Sinistrari, you get Protestant view, you get atheist view, you get pagan view, you get mystic view on the topic of demons in general, anything to do with them. It was a fun work to compile, let me tell you. 487 Sean Tower. Did you cover the recent cowardice from the Supreme Court on election denial ethics, basically banning all challenge to elections? I will be talking about their new ethics code. Yes, in fact, that's the next one up, I think. Yeah, because we just talked about Ben Shapiro losing his mind. Soleil333, with Gavin's recent comments, I wouldn't blame the people in Cali if they just stop paying taxes. Why give them your money if they won't keep the cities from looking run down holes? Yeah, we'll also be talking about Newsom completely hanging his political career tomorrow. That's going to be the other main. It's going to be hilarious. Anton's talking about his biltong over on Rumble, I see. Chad Scott, did Candace really tell Ben to fight his own wars? It appears so, yeah. Basically, stop warmongering and the legacy media lies to people. What the fuck is wrong with these statements? I fail to see the problem. Israel can handle itself. We don't need to drop a bunch of U.S. Marines in Gaza. The last Sathoy. Can I have a clank from my dad? I have to find a flight home 8,000 miles to help my family. His dementia has got too bad for them, and they need help. I don't have a spoon to clank at the moment, but I've got a knife to clank. You've got a clank. So yeah, 8,000 miles. Jesus Christ. Talk about a red-eye flight. Hope you don't have any too many layovers. Ramon C. GTC. Why do some people think aliens are demons? Because they don't understand the Bible and they don't understand science. Official YouTube critic, have you looked into the Havara Agreement from 1933? Thoughts? Only topically, so I don't have many thoughts about it. Wow, agreed. U.S. troops not needed. We strong enough. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Israel does have a first world military capability. I don't think Hamas does, though. Next news story. Supreme Court adopts code of conduct amid ethics scrutiny. The announcement was met with muted applause, with critics saying it does not go far enough because there's no enforcement mechanism. Yes, the Supreme Court is supposed to create an enforcement mechanism limiting its own capabilities. You see, the problem is that probably require a constitutional amendment. I don't even know if SCOTUS could do it themselves to themselves. Yeah, basically, the legislature is allowed to investigate ethics violations. Somebody's posting earlier some of the stock gains of the SCOTUS justices. By the way, the liberal ones were at the top of that list, so, you know, those in glass houses may not want to throw too many rocks. The ethics code, effectively overall, is just basically an iteration of the de facto code that they already operate under. It's really just a restatement. Effectively, they put to paper what was already effectively prior agreed upon. You're not allowed to be corrupt. If you've got a conflict of interest, you have to recuse and stuff like that. There's no methodology, though, by which to make it binding. Again, absent a constitutional amendment, which clearly is not going to happen. As far as that particular point with regards to elections, again, it's inconsequential because the ethics code's not binding in any way, shape, or form. SCOTUS will do what it wants with broad purview. This is a double-edged sword. In some cases, it's very good. In some cases, it's very bad. For example, the application of judicial scrutiny in and of itself. SCOTUS tends to be rather reserved and prefer not to take up cases unless they are significant enough to take up. Sometimes this means that if you have a really strong belief about a constitutional right or the legality of a law or something that's gone on, you'll be disappointed because they decide to bounce the case back to the lower courts repeatedly, possibly permanently, or simply refuse to decide at all. They don't grant certiorari, in other words. In some cases, they take up the case. That pisses people off too. Oh my God, how dare SCOTUS take up Roe v. Wade? Oh my God, how dare it take up the New Jersey case leading to the Bruin decision? They should have just left it alone, and it's a states' rights issue whether the Second Amendment is violated. SCOTUS is perpetually capable of pissing people off because in a polarized society, it inevitably will. They can uphold a law and make the most detailed, principled, obvious, coherent argument possible, and there will still be people in the population that don't like the decision. Bruin would come to mind, for example. Bruin is quite clearly the constitutional norm, and there is no reason for modern gun control. Didn't exist till the middle of the 1800s, was based on basically trying to keep a black man down in the most literal sense, the Cruikshank decision, 1876, I think, et cetera, et cetera. It's coherent, it's well-written, it slightly limits itself, actually, and was a good decision. But there are people that are pissed about it because the AR-15 is scary and the founders didn't intend anyone to own them because they couldn't have known that a semi-auto rifle would exist. Well, none of that's meaningful in any way, shape, or form. SCOTUS made the right decision, but still, did it not manage to piss off a third of the population or thereabouts? Yes, absolutely it did. Doesn't even matter. So SCOTUS has an ethics rule. Ultimately, though, it doesn't really matter what they put in it because there's no legal enforcement of the ethics rule. It's a suggestion. It's a legal suggestion to the court justices to do what they try to do already. Doesn't matter. But everyone keeps making a huge deal about it. Hames, greetings, Sticks. I opened my own weird fiction bookstore and would love to stock your books. I'm also in the beginning stages of a new biography on Montague Summers. Any thoughts on him? Never heard of Montague Summers, but yeah, if you want to obtain copies of the books, I don't know if you buy on bulk on Amazon, do you get a discount? I'm not 100% sure. I would definitely recommend the compilational works. Unfortunately, my format on the blogs is a little wiggly because I really need like 16 sections instead of 10, and I still haven't gotten around to fully organizing everything, and it's become a big problem in more ways than one. I'm doing the best that I can. I've still got the file. I've only got the first 3 sections done out of 16, so it'll take a while. And I'm thinking about making a new Substack, actually, just for that purpose. Congratulations, by the way, on opening a bookstore. Zool, do I recall correctly that the FCC is supposed to vote on giving Biden admin control over the internet or not this week? If so, what are you anticipating? Well, considering the FCC commissioner has come completely out against the concept, I think that it's probably DOA. That's the good news. The bad news is it was suggested to begin with. I will be talking about that tomorrow in more detail. Katrina Games, I have a new daughter and she is amazing. I'm hoping to put her in private school. I like her too much to put her in public school. I'm hoping the woke BS is mostly done with by the time she's older. Have some money, Sticks. Thank you for the money. I would say you should investigate the local schools because there's a possibility that there's a school around that isn't woke, that's public, they won't have to pay for. Not every school is woke. And by the way, the kids are all right. Trust me, plenty of the kids ain't woke either. Interact with Gen Alphas a few times and you'll see it. The wokeness of Gen Z has already seemingly partially worn off. Scarfy the Strange, have you talked about the FCC yet? I just did. I'll talk about it in detail tomorrow. Don't worry. That will be the main story of the day. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Our zombie is here, of course. Sigil Stone, SCOTUS refused to hear election cases for strange reasons, but bans challenging election after what happened in Connecticut. Activates the almonds. Almonds that undead don't have because zombies be dumb. He's talking smack again, Wasted. And he replied, Sigil, there's something soft and squishy waiting for you on your pillow. Fuck around, find out. Jesus. It's a chunk of rotting brains, probably. Next news story. Doctors at Gaza's biggest hospital say newborns are dying after facility goes out of service. Yes, little babies are dying in Gaza now. And it's not pretty, and you do occasionally see pictures if you scroll around Twitter of dead babies, which is not really pleasant. And the excuse for this is basically, well, Hamas fucked around and found out, much like Sigil getting his bed pooped on, I guess. And they came over the border and they killed Israeli babies. So, if their babies die, it doesn't really matter. That's not the way that optics work. It's not the way that war propaganda works. It's not the way that civilized countries tend to conduct warfare. And the biggest differentiation, which Israel itself makes, is we're a standing modern military force. We obey international law, and Hamas doesn't. And so it's okay if we target them and do what we want in Gaza because, they kill women and children and we do whatever we can to not do so. But when you've bombed out the hospitals and there's no electricity and there are babies every day asphyxiating there because there's no oxygen, dying of cold, dying of thirst, dying of hunger by the dozens, again, each week at a minimum. And that's not even the ones that get vaporized by your bombs. Eventually, you lose the optical war. I've tried to point it out. Think that some of you out there do believe this. Some of you believe Israel is objectively right, Palestine is objectively evil, the Jews must prevail, etc. I've warned before, even if you have that belief, it does not matter. The world is going to see images, videos, and high-quality ones now. Not like you would get back in the 90s or something like that. High quality 60 FPS 4K videos and perfectly clear pictures from all over Gaza of dead babies. That's what they're going to see ad nauseum. Hamas you can even say, well, Hamas is just using that as propaganda. Most of the people dying are combatants, which is not the case, but okay, make that claim if you want to. Even if it's only one person out of 100 that's a dead baby, what are people mainly going to fixate on? Do they give a shit about the pile of dead Hamas soldiers? No, they're Hamas. Fuck them. Who cares if they died? They're militants. They're combatants. They died in war. Okay, well, yeah, they had families too. The families can grieve. But the dead baby was clearly not a Hamas member. And they saw the images of dead Israelis in the immediate aftermath of Hamas attacking Israel. And people were, by the way, lock, stock, and barrel, generally gung-ho for Israel at the time. Israel decided to jump the gun. They decided to mount a ground invasion with massive airstrikes, et cetera, in Gaza. And they effectively walked into a trap. The trap is either you don't do that, and you look weak in the region, and then you get invaded by people because they think that you won't fight back because you're afraid of killing civvies. Or you do invade, we bog you down in an eternal situation where you have to occupy the whole Gaza Strip, which Netanyahu the other day alluded to being willing to do, while pictures of dead babies are pumped out in the press in the West. And eventually, the U.S. government will no longer be able to shield you. That's the long and short of it. Israel was effectively cornered into a no-win situation, admittedly. But that doesn't justify the death of so many civilians. The civilian death count at this point is probably above 10,000 in Gaza. That's a lot of dead people. That's a good-sized small town now, isn't it? If you killed 10,000 people in Rutland would collapse because there wouldn't be much of a population left thanks to the emigration of its population. And basically, you have to occupy Gaza or you have to just destroy everything in it and then exile everyone. Nakba mode, I suppose, or something like that. Which might be the goal. Make life so insufferable that everyone just fucking leaves and goes to Egypt. Rich Wayand, hey Sticks, my new sci-fi book Talbot is about an AI who takes over to protect us from ourselves. Search under Richard F. Wayand. Sounds pretty cool. Frog Club, Brother Shogo. Why not glass Gaza? We glassed Japan twice. Yeah, I mean, you could. Again, though, you kill a lot of babies in the process, and people wouldn't like that very much. Sigil, what the fuck? I found Bonehead's brain on my pillow. Wasted Bonehead. Not my brain, it's yours. How's it feel, bitch? Sigil, my brain is still in my head. Bonehead ripped some random bastard's brain out because he can't tell the difference between living people. He's alivist. Hashtag the tolerant undead strike again. God. This is probably my favorite channel meme of all time, by the way, you two. Wow, the world would not care even if Israel had perfect PR. The legacy media and UN have a hate boner for Israel and will do whatever they can to twist the truth. Well, yeah, but I mean, the truth is that there are a lot of dead babies. So it's going to be, even if the UN supported you, at some point it's going to be a PR disaster. I mean, how many people are going to fucking die in this particular dust-up? This is much bigger than the struggles that have happened in that region for some time, going back at least to technically the 1960s or 70s. Next news story, speaking of the blighted region that can't stop bombing itself. U.S. conducts more strikes in eastern Syria, military says, following continued attacks on forces in the region. Yes, Iran's Revolutionary Guard and their associates have been attacking U.S. positions in that general region. A region that we really shouldn't fucking be in anyway, in which Trump, by the way, tried to draw us down from, and his own envoy to the region lied to him about troop totals. The deep state, the uniparty, wants a war within this region. Make no mistake, the U.S. government incarnation under Joe Biden wants a regional war. He wants Jews to die, he wants Gazans to die, he wants Syrians to die, and he wants to do the yeah, kill him thing, mission accomplished, George W. comeback sort of thing. That's exactly what the Biden administration needs right now because he's so far down in the polls. He wants to be a wartime president. He's effectively just waiting for the opportunity to pull the trigger. That is a guarantee. That's why we wheedle away at Syrian forces, even though we're not welcome in Syria and have no reason whatsoever to be there. We're in Iraq. We have no reason to be in Iraq. There's no reason for the U.S. to maintain any form of presence in that general region outside of having an embassy in Israel simply because they tolerate our presence and other people in the region don't want to. Beyond that, it's basically Cairo or Saudi Arabia, who we sell a shit ton of arms to and basically bribe to be semi-friendly so they won't throttle the oil supply. Beyond that, and Turkey, the most fair-weathered friend in the world to the Western countries, to NATO, beyond that, why even be involved in the region? We're capable of establishing air superiority with a couple of aircraft carriers over most of these countries anyway without even landing troops. Why do we still have troops in Syria? It doesn't make any goddamn sense unless you're trying to start a war. You want a reason to do it. This is why we're striking these forces. In total, there have been at least 46 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria since October 17th. At least 56 troops have been injured. Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said Thursday the injuries were a combination of traumatic brain injuries and minor injuries. So you got a splinter, John Kerry mode or something like that. I mean, apologies to any troops. I don't mean to offend any of the soldiers that are over there, but really, I oppose the government having you over there. I think you should be in South Korea eating noodles right now on the DMZ, or you should be in Paris right now, or preferably back stateside. You should be in South Carolina or California, wherever the fuck you're from to begin with, the nearest base to your home or something like that. That's where I would like U.S. troops to be. Or better yet, you should be on the southern border. You know, want to protect and serve the country. The best thing the politicians do would be to send most of the U.S. military to the southern border. It'd be cheaper. It'd be safer. It'd be more pleasant. It would bring a lot more peace to the American people. I fail to see what the problem is. Instead, you're sitting there as sitting ducks in Syria, surrounded by enemies, millions of them. And there are a few hundred of you guarding these locations. That doesn't seem safe to me. It's not a sane foreign policy that we're engaged with. It doesn't make sense. If you intend to go in, go big. Otherwise, stay out. It's as simple as that. Speak softly, carry a big stick. Don't bring a twig to a stick fight. That's basically what the Biden administration is doing. Oh, we've got a few hundred. I'm sure that those few hundred troops are so effective. They're capable of running the number of ops necessary to make a big difference. No, basically, you're offering them up as sacrificial cattle. You're hoping that they get bombed so that you can declare a state of war exists with Syria or Iran or something like that. So save your foundering presidency. It's pathetic. It's the kind of foreign policy dreamed up by a complete egotistical moron, like some crazy monarch from 300 or 400 years ago who's clearly flipped his lid because he drank too much of the lead-tainted wine. And he just decides, oh, I'm going to put a bunch of pikemen over here in this tower surrounded by 10,000 enemies. They'll hold out. It'll be just fine. No, they won't hold out. But then you'll make a big stink about it afterwards, say that it was completely unforeseen, and then order more pikemen and archers in. Basically. Wow, don't disagree about the loss of life. It is sad. At least now that we've nearly taken Gaza, the Polis will get a much better shot at a good life. No, I don't think that they will. I think that there will be significant repercussions. I think there will be vengeance more than anything else. Branch Covidian 19. Communism is the opium of the people. No, communism is the placebo of the people. At least opium gets you high. Critical orc theory. Oi, I be missing brain. You see where it went? Oh, God. Charles Warrington finally made it to a stream clanking on the road, and today's my birthday. Happy birthday, Charles Warrington. Frog Club, Brother Shogo. Is Iran, China, Russia, China, and North Korea the new axis? Nope. No, that's a Bush-era line. It's been trotted back out by the Biden admin. I wonder why. Deck Defender. Hey, Sticks, I'm ordering biltong because of this show. Probably from Anton's. Let me try. A Better Place Bakery. We have stuff on Etsy. Oh, cool. So Better Place Bakery on Etsy, and you're getting biltong. I strongly recommend the buffalo. The Wagyu is very good. It's all good. It doesn't matter. Just choose one at random. It'll be tasty. Don't worry about it. Speaking of which, we've got Anton, King of Biltong. Good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping on your biltong order using code STICKS on www.landofbiltong.com and www.antonsusa.com. Thanks to Clankers Mitchell, Tony, Tobin, and Verinia for visiting in store. Sounds cool. Yeah, there's a lot of fucking clankers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Apparently, I have to make a visit down there sometime. Have a biltong dinner. I'm going to bring them all to Anton's, and we're just going to sit there eating the biltong. He'll run out. Wasted bonehead. I'll keep ripping people's brains out until I find your brain, Sigil. I'm done playing. Your ass is cooked. Contemporary Compendium. I'd love for you to have a discussion with Apostate Prophet. He's a Muslim turned atheist that believes Israel should retake their land. Would be an interesting chat. Yeah, sounds fun. Yeah, somebody, if he DMs me on Twitter, we'll see if we can hit it off. Sigil Stone 17. I've been tracing Bonehead's entire family lineage and finding their graves. Once I get that X-Lax sponsorship, shit's going to hit the fan. Several of them. Wasted Bonehead. That's low, Sigil. You leave my family out of this. The only thing you'll be shitting is bricks when I get my hands on you. Amazing to think that a portion of my income comes from a zombie and a poo smear fending one another off. Sigil, lol, you don't have hands anymore, fucker. I think they're there, but they're skeletonized, I think. Like some tatters of flesh dangling off them. Imagine, when you peel that little piece of skin right next to the nail back and how painful that is, like if you've accidentally done that, like it's like chapped and you peel it and it feels like you're basically going to peel a strip all the way up your finger. Just imagine that, but on steroids. And it's gangrenous. Opinion, a third-party run is a risk we can't afford. This is by James Clyburn, so big-time Dem, talking about Joe Manchin. I just wanted you to read this article. Again, link in the description, archived, of course, along with all of the other links. I've already talked about them all. There's merch, there's donation pages, there's crypto, there's news stories, there's everything under the sun. Basically, your daily hub for everything interesting and cool. Clyburn is not particularly enthused about the prospect of Joe Manchin running for office. He points something out, and he's not technically incorrect, although he's correct for the wrong reasons, talking about the idea of having a center. So Joe Manchin has talked about trying to unify the center and defy extremism and stuff. Now, I mean, MAGA's not extremist, but it is out of the norm for the reasonably modern political party known as the GOP. Modern GOP neocons, basically. Modern Dems, neolib, generally speaking. Clyburn points out that there's not so much of a center on the right, that the center is more on the left. I actually agree with him to an extent, but that's not for the reason Clyburn is citing. He's making it seem like, well, those Republicans are all going to be lock, stock, and barrel behind populism, and you're going to end up, if you run, you're going to end up robbing all these moderate voters from Joe Biden and giving Trump the presidency, and we'll all be Nazis. That's not true. What is true is that MAGA populism, by and large, population-wise, not at the government level, as far as the population, has overrun the GOP. It is most of the GOP. It is the majority share by far. With the Democrats, the left, which would be the more extreme fringe, is a small portion. The Union Dem centrists is also a small portion. Most of it's neoliberal. In that sense, Manchin capable of appealing to, I think, at least some neoliberals, disaffected by Biden, of course, so the lower class neolibs, and the Union Dems would be able to more cater to that side. What Clyburn misses is that Joe Manchin is a Democrat. He has been his whole life. No shit, Sherlock. If he gets in, he's going to take more Democratic votes than Republican votes. Do you think Joe Manchin is ignorant of this fact? Apparently, he thinks he is. I encourage Manchin to get into the race. I think it'd be a good thing for the country, because Joe Manchin might very well be the one that takes a couple of points off of Joe Biden in the end as a no-labeler, as an independent candidate, and restores the presidency to its proper function. Will it be perfect? No. Will everything be chaos and messiness probably for weeks after the election if Trump's reelected? Abso-fucking-lutely, and by the way, I don't see that as a bad thing as a content creator. Definitely plenty of interesting videos. Shit, if that happens, I'll probably have to up my game and make twice as many live streams. The real reason, though, is actually party-wise. Think of it this way. Joe Biden is one of the most historically unpopular presidents of modern history. In fact, I think he might be arguably the most unpopular. Carter, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, because Carter did have some moments when his popular is okay, just not in general. He's at least the second most unpopular. Maybe Herbert Walker towards the end. He's hemorrhaging support. What you're looking forward to potentially for the Dems if he's reelected is if you get 4 more years of his failed policies. And Democrats can be all bravado and gung-ho, and the DNC shill accounts can say, well, he's actually doing a good job on economics. No, he's not. And on a porous border and everything like that, the situation metastasizes further. And when the economy inevitably goes on a downturn, which it will, by the way, regardless of who is elected in the 24 election, Trump, if reelected, is going to have to probably deal with a recession. In his case, he'll probably manage to constrain it to a mini recession like we had last year. Biden, I don't think, would be successful at doing so. When that happens, you're looking forward to a future political map that so heavily disfavors the Democratic Party that if you're basically just a partisan Dem, it would make sense to abandon Biden and vote for Joe Manchin. It would make sense to screw your party. I know most partisan Dems, they're not going to vote for a Republican, let alone Donald Trump. But Manchin, on the other hand, might be palatable to them. It's effectively an off-ramp for the Democratic Party to diffuse tension that's been caused by one of the most historically unliked presidents of modern history. Look at approval polling between Trump and Biden. Donald Trump is supposedly the more retarded version of Adolf Hitler, but his approval, generally speaking, much higher than Joe Biden's, considerably higher. There were a couple of moments that it was lower as an aggregate, right after J6, right at the tail ass end of his presidency, for example. With regards to that and a few other moments, Donald Trump's approval was reasonable. Not necessarily Eisenhower or JFK level, but he was doing fairly well. Like Clinton polling or something like that, middling to upper middling. Joe Biden's is in the shitter. The Democrats don't even seem to understand. And all the ballot printers in the world going brr are not going to save you if you reelect Joe Biden. You will be absolutely annihilated in 2028. That's why they're putting out all the fear porn about Trump, because they have nothing else to run on. The long and short of it is they don't even have a campaign. Biden's not campaigning. He does not have a platform. His platform is, I'm just going to dawdle around and eat my bran biscuits and have my bowel movement. That's basically the long and short of it. By the way, please send no more super chats. There's a few to work through here, and that was the last news story of the day. And I'm sure that there's more undead infighting over there. Got to read through it. Got several super chats here. God damn it. I'll just go to the start page. I'm doing my best. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader. Greetings to you. Wilden, I'm hopeful Trump can win 24. Like you said, America loves their underdog stories. Yes. Sebastian Monroe, the Army Corps of Engineers can build the wall. Joe Castillo, Roger, fellow clankers. Ozzy's Robots, morning. Probably off topic, but allegedly Saddam sent a hit squad against Bush 1, which may have factored in his start to the war. P.S. I have a talking Trump Christmas card from 2016 that still works. Oh, man. Oh, Christ. Maybe. Freedom of speech. Good morning to Amber at ABC Auto Parts. Wow, not financial advice. Rumble stock sitting at $4.5. Interesting. Thought about buying in there. Also, I hate how you have to legally. You really should say that, by the way, whenever you talk about anything economic or money related. Otherwise, people can lose a bunch of money and potentially sue you. Well, they'll probably lose, but it costs money to wage that battle in court now, doesn't it? Makes more sense to cover your bases so you can get it dismissed and not have to hire a lawyer for 20 hours of work and $500 an hour or something like that. Let's see. Wasted Bonehead. Gonna use the money I got from Spooky Biltong for private security. Come and shit, Sigil. I dare you. Swamp Donkey. Ben Shapiro needs to be deported, as with every frothing at the mouth pro-Israeli politician and forced to fight in the IDF. AIPAC also needs to be labeled a foreign entity. I agree with the latter. I do think generally when someone's pro-war, it's like, okay, well, you know, can you afford a gun? Oh, Zelensky will give it to you for free, by the way. You can always go sign up to be a merc over in Ukraine, and they'll accept all comers. They've got English-speaking squads and shit like that all over Ukraine right now. Israel probably would welcome some mercs. Yeah, I don't think they'd have a problem with that. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, you know, young-ish. You're not old or anything like that. You're not crippled. Why don't you go and defend your favorite country in the world? Because apparently it isn't the United States. Just saying, I mean, you seem a little bit obsessed with the issue when you're attacking your own co-employee. Anyway, I'm going to go offline now. I thank you to the over 5,000 people who tuned in live. I've got some soup to make, actually. Chicken veggie soup. It's going to be great. Green beans and carrot and all that good shit in it. And extra onion, too. I'm going to caramelize the fucking onions first this time. Sometimes I just quarter it and put it in whole, and it comes out fine, like, you know, it cooks in flavor-wise. I will be back tomorrow with more news stories, of course. So I thank you all for showing up. And to Bonehead and Sigil, you know, maybe you should form a truce, and jointly you can do human and zombie poop on other people as well. You should form a coalition. That's about all. Peace out.